When your QBR is a 3 out of 100, most coaches aren't going to shield you from the fallout. But Kevin Stefanski did. In a league that discards young quarterbacks at the first sign of struggle, Stefanski's decision to defend Shedeur Sanders felt personal. Maybe it was the backlash, the online vitriol calling him overrated or a product of his father's name. Or maybe Stefanski saw something deeper. A young quarterback who didn't flinch in a situation designed to break him.
If you're into the real story and all the messy twists they don't show on highlight reels, go ahead and subscribe. And if you're sticking around to see how this Browns QB chaos plays out, you should definitely be subscribed.
Shedeur's first NFL action was a trial by fire. No first-team practice. A backup offensive line. A blitz-heavy defense, throwing disguised coverages all game. But through it all, Stefanski saw leadership, not in touchdowns, but in body language and decision-making. While critics rushed to label Shedeur a bust, his coach saw the seeds of a franchise quarterback. Now, with a full week of starter reps ahead, the team wants to see if those flashes can turn into something bigger. The moment Shedeur Sanders stepped onto the NFL field, the opinions came in fast and loud. Some cheered, others cringed, and a whole lot of people didn't waste time sharpening their takes. A QBR of 3 out of 100 will do that. It's a kind of stat that goes viral before the final whistle even blows. And that's exactly what happened. Clips spread, tweets flew, and the narrative locked in. Shedeur was a bust. But while the internet dunked on him, something strange was happening behind the scenes. Head coach Kevin Stefanski stepped up, and not in the way people expected. He didn't throw Shedeur under the bus. He didn't deflect. He didn't even offer the usual vague coach speak about needing to clean things up. Instead, he went straight to the point. Shedeur was starting the next game. No hesitation. No qualifying statements. Just a full vote of confidence in a rookie quarterback who just posted one of the worst statistical performances of the season. It threw people off. It sparked debate. And it made one thing very clear. There's a lot more to this story than the stat line. Because when you look at the context of Shedeur's debut, it's hard not to ask, was he set up to fail? He was thrown into the game at halftime. Not after a week of first-team practice. Not even after a day. He'd taken 0 snaps with the starters. No timing, no rhythm, no chemistry. Then you add in the fact that he was up against Baltimore's defense. Aggressive, confusing, relentless. They disguised their coverages, they sent pressure, and they gave a rookie quarterback exactly 0 breathing room. And to top it off, the team's starting left tackle was out. So now he's behind a backup offensive line that's already scrambling, trying to hold off one of the most physical defenses in the league. It's not an excuse, it's an explanation. And it's one that Stefanski clearly wanted people to. His post-game comments weren't just about shielding a young player. They were specific. He pointed out that Shedeur hadn't practiced against the looks Baltimore was throwing at him, that he was facing pressure from all sides and had to adapt on the fly, with no preparation. And despite all that, Stefanski saw something worth developing, something he believes can grow into a real NFL quarterback. That alone makes the situation fascinating. Because usually, when a performance goes that poorly, coaches don't lean in, they pull back. They retreat to safer options. They go back to the known quantities. But Stefanski didn't just defend Shedeur. He praised him. He pointed to things that don't show up in the stats. The way he carried himself on the field. The way he stayed composed. The way he kept engaging with teammates even as things were unraveling. According to Stefanski, Shedeur's body language looked like a veteran's. Calm. Focused. Not rattled. Not finger-pointing. Not shutting down. And for a rookie in the middle of a disaster game, that kind of poise says something. And then there's the leaked audio. That clip did more to change the perception than any post-game press conference could have. Because it showed the coaching staff talking, not like they were dealing with a failure, but like they saw potential. Real potential. They were impressed by how he handled the chaos, by how he made certain reads, by his ability to stay in the moment, even when the scoreboard was unforgiving. So while the outside world saw 3 out of 100 and assumed it meant the end, the people inside the building saw something different. They saw the foundation. And now, Stefanski is pushing all in on giving Shedeur a real chance. A full week of preparation. Real reps with the starters. A game plan built around him, not thrown at him. And if you know how this league works, you know that matters. Because talent alone isn't enough. It's about opportunity. It's about being given a chance to succeed, not just survive. And if this week really is that opportunity, it could be a turning point, not just for Shedeur, but for the entire Browns quarterback situation. 2. Because let's not act like the current starter has locked the position down. The offense hasn't been electric. There hasn't been a clear sense of direction. So when Stefanski says Shedeur could be the guy who elevates the team's performance, it's not just hypothetical. It's based on what he's not seeing from the other options. That belief? It's starting to shift the narrative. People are going back and rewatching, looking at those throws, that footwork, the decisions under pressure. They're realizing that the QBR didn't tell the full story. And the story that's emerging now is that maybe, just maybe, this wasn't a rookie flameout. It was a raw debut with promise buried underneath the numbers. It also calls into question how quickly we judge players, especially ones like Shedeur, who come into the league with a spotlight already blazing. Being Deion Sanders' son doesn't help him. It puts him under a magnifying glass. Every move, every mistake, every misstep gets amplified. So when the narrative turned negative, it turned fast. He got labeled overrated before the final whistle. Critics said he was only in the league because of his name, that he wasn't ready, that he didn't belong. But then Stefanski stepped in, not with spin, but with conviction. And it forced people to take a second look. Because when a respected head coach says, "I saw traits you can't teach," that doesn't just reset the clock. It recenters the conversation. Suddenly, Shedeur isn't a fifth-round bust. He's a quarterback with a ceiling. And now we're all waiting to see what happens when the ceiling is tested. This is the part that matters. The next few weeks aren't just games on a schedule. They're defining moments. If Shedeur takes that preparation and translates it into poise, efficiency, and smart decision-making, everything changes. Not just for him, but for the people who believed in him. And if he struggles, it's not the end, but it will make the road longer. The NFL doesn't hand out second chances easily. You don't get many context passes. But right now, Stefanski has opened the door, and what Shedeur does with that opening is going to shape the rest of his career. That's why this moment is so compelling. It's not just about proving the critics wrong. It's about proving that when the right support is in place, when the coaching staff backs you, when the reps are real and the plan fits the player, growth is possible. Redemption is possible. Change is possible. And yeah, the critics will be watching, waiting for another stumble. But so will everyone who saw something deeper in that chaotic debut. The calm, the presence, the potential. Now it's time to see what happens when preparation meets opportunity. Because Stefanski isn't handing out another start for the sake of it. He's making a statement. He's betting that Shedeur isn't just a name. That he's a player with the tools to grow into something real. And if he's right, everything we thought we knew about this rookie might need a rewrite. So what's your take? Did the critics jump the gun, or are we about to see a breakout? Think Stefanski's playing a smart long game, or is this a reach wrapped in coach speak? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Like if you're rooting for the redemption arc, share if you've got someone who needs to hear this story, and hit that subscribe button to stay locked in. Because whether it's rise or ruin, the next chapter of Shedeur Sanders' journey is about to get very real. 2. The stakes couldn't be higher. Because for all the chaos that surrounded Shedeur Sanders' NFL debut, for all the numbers that were quoted and clipped and memed into oblivion, the reality is that his next start is more than just another game. It's the defining moment of a quarterback who now has a sliver of belief behind him, a coach who stuck his neck out, and a spotlight that's only growing hotter. The difference this time? Now there's no excuse. Kevin Stefanski is giving Shedeur everything he didn't have before. First-team reps, a full week of practice, a game plan designed with him in mind, actual preparation, something that should be standard but wasn't the first time around. Because let's be clear, Shedeur was thrown in cold against one of the league's most complex defenses. And no one survives that without scars. But this week, this is the test. Now we get to see what Shedeur looks like with time, with rhythm, with a team that knows he's the guy taking the snaps. The rhythm of practice, the timing with receivers, the protection calls at the line. This is where a quarterback actually builds confidence. And more importantly, this is where a quarterback earns trust. And trust is everything in a locker room. Teammates don't care about narratives. They care about execution. And if Shedeur can walk onto the field, run the offense, and show that he's not just surviving, but commanding the huddle, that's how you shift from being the guy filling in to just being the... And right now the door is open. Because let's not forget, the Browns' quarterback room hasn't exactly been settled. The current starter hasn't been able to pull away or make a convincing case to lock down the job. Stefanski's praise for Shedeur wasn't just about optimism. It was a critique in disguise. When a coach starts talking about traits that have been missing from the offense, poise, confidence, leadership, what he's really doing is calling out the status quo. And that means the job? It's up for grabs. If Shedeur performs, this is no longer just a developmental storyline. It becomes a full-on quarterback competition. And in the NFL, momentum is everything. One good game turns into two. Two turns into he's starting until further notice. And then suddenly, the rookie who got clowned for a QBR of 3 is now the centerpiece of a team trying to turn their season around. But it has to start now. Because one more poor showing, even with better prep, and the window closes. Maybe not forever. But in this league, opportunities are rare, and short-term memory is brutal. All it takes is one more rocky outing, and the narrative flips again. Maybe Stefanski overestimated him. Maybe the moment's too big. Maybe he's not ready. And then we're back to where we started. So yeah, this game, it's massive. Not just for Shedeur, but for the entire organization. Because giving a rookie the keys isn't just about evaluating talent. It's about choosing a direction. And when Stefanski goes to the podium and says Shedeur's starting again, what he's really doing is telling the rest of the team, this is the guy we're investing in right now. That message gets felt everywhere, from the offensive line to the wide receivers to the guys in the film room. And if Shedeur can show that he deserves that trust, that investment, that's how leaders are made. But don't get it twisted. There's still pressure. The public perception hasn't vanished. People are still skeptical. Critics are still loud. There's a large chunk of the football world that still sees Shedeur as overhyped, overpromoted, and underqualified. That he's only getting this shot because of his last name. Because his dad is Deion Sanders. Because the marketing machine behind him is louder than the on-field product. But that's the thing. This week is the opportunity to shut all of that down. Because once the ball is snapped, the name doesn't matter. The followers don't matter. All that matters is whether he moves the chains, makes the throws, and runs the offense like he belongs. And if he does, it's going to get real quiet out. Because there's nothing more dangerous than a player with something to prove and the support of a coaching staff that actually believes in him. Stefanski didn't just give Shedeur a pat on the back. He gave him a second chance. And not just any second chance, but a meaningful one. The kind that shifts narratives and careers. Because let's be honest, coaches don't put their reputations on the line for players they don't believe in. And Stefanski? He's done more than defend Shedeur. He's publicly gone to bat for him. He's said over and over that what happened in that first game wasn't the full story. That the film showed moments, glimpses, flashes of what he could become. It's easy to roll your eyes at that stuff when you're looking at 3 out of 100. But the tape doesn't lie. And if there were flashes, then it means the performance wasn't about ability. It was about circumstance. No prep, no protection, no chemistry. So the real question becomes, what does Shedeur look like when all of that is in place? We're about to find out. Because now, the experiment becomes real. This isn't a see what happens kind of start. It's a prove you belong opportunity. And in a league that moves fast and forgets faster, this is the moment Shedeur Sanders can go from a punchline to a possibility. It won't take perfection. Nobody's expecting a flawless performance. What matters is growth, maturity, command. That's what Stefanski and the staff will be watching for. Because if Shedeur can show that he's learned from the first outing, that he can manage the offense, that he's not overwhelmed by the moment, that's when belief becomes conviction. That's when coaches start planning around you instead of ahead of you. That's when teammates start trusting that you're not just filling in. You're someone they can win with. And when that shift happens, everything changes. So this is more than just another game on the schedule. It's the first real audition. And the audience isn't just fans. It's coaches, teammates, executives, and yes, every single critic who had something to say the first time around. And whether they admit it or not, they're all watching. Because if Shedeur shows out, the entire story changes. Suddenly, the early criticism gets recast as impatience. The doubters get quieter. The conversations on sports radio start to sound different. And Stefanski? He looks like a coach who saw something the rest of the league missed. But if Shedeur stumbles again, even with all the preparation in the world, then the narrative hardens. And the climb back becomes twice as steep. That's the reality of this moment. One performance isn't everything, but it can be a turning point. And for Shedeur Sanders, this week is exactly that. It's the moment where preparation meets expectation, where belief meets reality. And no matter how it goes, good, bad, or somewhere in between, it's going to say a lot about what kind of quarterback he really is. Let's be real, most rookies don't get this kind of second shot. After a performance as statistically rough as Shedeur Sanders had 3 out of 100 on the QBR scale, most teams would quietly move on. Maybe stash him back behind the clipboard, slide him down the depth chart, and let the season continue without making a big scene. That's usually how it goes. But what's happening in Cleveland? That's not the usual script. Kevin Stefanski didn't just acknowledge the growing pains. He didn't play it safe. He committed. Out loud. On the record. He said Shedeur's starting the next game. And whether people agreed with that decision or not, one thing became obvious. This isn't just a test drive. It's a real opportunity. And that opportunity? It's coming under a microscope. Because now, everyone knows what's at stake. It's not just about redeeming a bad stat line. It's about changing the perception of who Shedeur Sanders is as a quarterback. Whether he's just a name with buzz, or a player with real potential. And Stefanski's comments, both public and behind closed doors, are sending one message loud and clear. This staff believes there's something there. Something worth developing. That alone is a major shift from the tone after his debut. The online conversation was brutal. People weren't just criticizing the performance. They were writing him off. Saying he was overrated. That he wouldn't be in the league if not for his last name. That the NFL had exposed him. But inside the Browns facility, the mood was different. Reports, leaks, and coach comments all said the same thing. The performance didn't tell the full story. Sure, the numbers were bad. But context mattered. Shedeur wasn't prepared. Not because he was lazy or distracted, but because he wasn't supposed to play. He hadn't taken a single snap with a first-team offense that week. He was dropped in cold mid-game against a high-pressure Baltimore defense that was throwing disguised coverage at him. Oh, and his left tackle? Injured. So he had backup protection and zero chemistry with the guys in front of him. And yet, somehow, the staff saw flashes. They saw a rookie who didn't spiral, who didn't panic, who stayed engaged, stayed composed, and kept encouraging his teammates even as the game was slipping away. Stefanski pointed out Shedeur's body language, his control, the little things that don't show up in a box score, but do show up in film sessions. That's what coaches live for. They know you can fix footwork. You can correct reads. But you can't teach how to keep your cool when 300-pound linemen are crashing through your pocket and everything is falling apart. You either have that internal clock and leadership mindset, or you don't. And Stefanski clearly thinks Shedeur has it. 3. So what now? This week, everything changes. Shedeur's no longer walking into chaos. He's got time. Time to prepare. Time to work with the starters. Time to study the defense he'll face with a plan designed for him. It's no longer about survival. It's about performance. And that changes the expectations completely. Because now there are expectations. People will want to see improvement, command, decision-making. Maybe not a perfect stat line, but signs of growth. Stefanski and the staff aren't looking for a miracle. They're looking for maturity. They want to see if he can take the lessons from that brutal debut and apply them with a full week of support behind him. And that's what makes this such a high-pressure moment. Because in the NFL, the window for development is small. Fans are impatient. Front offices are demanding. And the narrative around Shedeur has already had one extreme swing, from college standout to NFL flameout. Now, with Stefanski in his corner, he's got a rare shot to swing it back again. But it won't come easy. The reality is, one more game like his debut, and the doubters won't just whisper, they'll shout. Loud. The kind of loud that makes it harder to get another chance anytime soon. The kind that lingers through the off-season. The kind that turns potential into a question mark. But if he shows up, if he takes this week of preparation and puts together even a solid, composed outing, that's a game changer. Because people are waiting for a reason to believe that maybe Shedeur isn't just a headline. That maybe Stefanski wasn't out of his mind. That maybe the 3 QBR game really was just what Stefanski said it was. A tough situation for a young quarterback who's still learning the speed and complexity of the NFL. It only takes one start to change the tone. Shedeur doesn't have to be flashy. He just has to be functional. Move the ball. Keep the offense on schedule. Avoid the big mistakes. And most importantly, look like he belongs. If he can do that, the entire conversation changes. From what was Stefanski thinking to why didn't they start him sooner? Because remember, the Browns aren't married to their current starter. And if Shedeur starts to show promise, if he builds chemistry with the first team, the leash on that QB room could get short real fast. That's what this game represents. Not a final verdict, but a turning point. So, where does it go from here? That depends entirely on how Shedeur responds to the moment. This isn't college. This isn't hype. This is the NFL. And now, he's not being thrown in last minute. He's being handed the reins with the full support of the coaching staff. That's rare. And it's powerful, if he's ready for it. What do you think? Is this the start of something real, or is the pressure too much, too soon? Was Stefanski bold, or just buying into a name? Can Shedeur prove his worth, or will the narrative go right back to where it was? Drop your thoughts below. Let's hear it. Like this if you're rooting for a comeback. Share it with someone who's been watching the drama unfold. And subscribe if you're riding with us through the next chapter. Because no matter how this goes, it's going to be unforgettable.